Eportfolios. The purpose of this workshop is to show how to use Eportfolios for students to student-centric learning. So how, instead of students sitting in the classroom and just copying notes, how do they take control of their own learning and find out things for themselves and create things? And Eportfolios are a great way for students to do that because it provides them with the shell to put all their knowledge in. So when they get resources, they can put it in their ePortfolio. When they create things, they can put it in their ePortfolio. And I see that it is on. So the title of my workshop is Electronic Portfolios as Spaces for Students to Engage with Learning. And it might be hard to see, but this quote says, electronic portfolios can change the way students learn from teacher-driven into student-driven and give students a space to engage with content and show what they have learned. So we want student-centric learning. And I thought this was a cute cartoon. It says, I expect you all to be independent, innovative, critical thinkers who will do exactly as I say. So that's kind of what we don't want. Is everyone hearing me?
We can hear you, yes, Gina.
We can hear you. Okay, right, just want to make sure. So the characteristics of student-centered learning is students explore, analyze, and apply resources. So instead of sitting in the classroom taking down notes, you might say to the students, you go and research this topic. So they will go and look at the resources, and we're going to talk about how they analyze resources, and then how do they apply resources, create something or apply it to show that they've learned it or apply it into their everyday life. Students create artifacts. So, and the great thing about ePortfolios are the artifacts don't have to be papers. They could be a video, a collage, a PowerPoint, anything that can be uploaded, because ePortfolios take all kinds of media, or anything you can create on the web. Instructor and peer feedback is provided for student work. So I know the ePortfolio tool that we use at St. John's, it's called Digication. It allows for feedback on every page. So if you have a tool that does that, you can give feedback directly on the ePortfolio. Or feedback can be given in other ways as well. Students revise work based on the feedback, and students are able to reflect on the work. So reflection is a big, important thing. Okay, so they learned something, but did they really learn something? And how will they apply what they learned in the future? So that's important. Okay, so this is just a little diagram to show the difference between teacher-centered learning and student-centric learning. So when you see the teacher-centered learning, it is teacher in front of the room. They have all the knowledge and the experience, and they're giving it to the students, and the students are taking it in. And that has to be done sometimes. I'm not saying, it can never be done that way. But sometimes it's good to just think outside of that box of the teacher-centric learning and just to get into that student-centered learning where the teacher and the students are sharing knowledge back and forth. Knowledge, experience, and beliefs are being shared by all. That is really when the learning takes place. So I wanted to share an assignment, and I'm going to zoom in on it actually. This is just going to be the basis of an example of how student-centered learning can actually work. So we have at St. John's University, all the freshmen have to take a course called Discover New York. It's their freshman experience course, and each teacher that teaches it does it from a different lens. It could be language in New York, culture, homeless in New York. So just as an example, this is a project that could be done in this class. Choose a group that has immigrated to New York City. Create an artifact that shows this group's experience through the eyes of a fictional character. So instead of the students, you lecturing to them about, oh, these are the different groups that came in, and them copying notes and taking an exam, answering questions, they're going to research about this group, but then they're going to do something a little different, not just write. There is a paper portion of this assignment, but they also have the artifact where they're not just writing about the group, but they're actually creating something through the eyes of a fictional character, a diary, a collage, a movie, something that shows, what they've gone through when they were traveling. So I know it's hard to see. I'm going to try to read this to you. So the objectives were to explore the different immigrant groups that were coming into New York City. And the students had to create an artifact that shows the personal experience of someone who immigrated to New York City. The artifact can take any form of video, a blog, a collage, a journal, a podcast. And then they also had to include a paper to go along with that. So the first part was the research. So the students had to gather resources that they were going to use and put them in their ePortfolio. And I will show you at the end kind of a good way to organize it, but they can have a section in the ePortfolio called research. So if the students find a video on YouTube, they can link to it or embed it in that page. If they find a journal article, they can link to that. You know, if they find, you know, photos or audio, that can all be linked to on their ePortfolio. And then they have just a page that's a repository of all their artifacts. All their the research that they've done. Now the next step to that though is to evaluate the resources. So if they find a website, you know, is it a valid website? Not just I'm going to use anything I find. How do they know this information is correct? Who created this website? Is it a historical society? Is it just a person that decided to throw together a website? So how do they, you know, evaluate these resources? And there are a lot of tools online for evaluating websites and information that you get, where students can fill forms out and things like that. But is this a valid resource? And I know in higher ed, it's, you know, we show the students to use journal articles and things like that. Maybe with elementary or high school, or especially elementary, they might not be using journal articles, but they could use valid websites. Another thing, I'm going to talk about Wikipedia a little bit later and how that actually is a useful resource for starting off your research. So I know students just want to go to Wikipedia and they just want to, you know, use it because it's so easy to find anything. But, you know, I could go on Wikipedia right now and type anything I want about a topic, and unless someone from Wikipedia sees what I did and sees that it's maybe if it's not valid, it will not be removed. So you have to tell students, go on Wikipedia, get keywords. So if you're researching about immigrants in New York City, find some keywords that you can then go to valid websites or more professional sites and type in those keywords and get more information. You always have to double check your information on Wikipedia. Okay, so you can have them put their resources up there, cite them, and then also state kind of how it is a reliable source. So we all know probably the literature reviews that students have to do sometimes where when they're typing a paper, they put all their resources and they write a paragraph about why it's useful. This is very similar. They put on their ePortfolio the video, the audio, and then they could write a little paragraph about why it's going to be useful to them. Well, not even a paragraph, that's pretty long. Maybe a sentence or two, why it's useful to them, and, you know, how they know it's a valid resource. Thanks. Yes, because I know, I'm sorry, someone in the chat room said it was a nice idea to include evaluation of resources. Shane? Yes, because I've noticed when working with students, they want to just take anything that's very easy to get, and like Wikipedia or just go on a website. So I always try to show them where to find resources that are, you know, more professional, that they can trust the source that they're from. Another thing when we're talking about resources, I work for the library in St. John, so I'm big on copyright, Creative Commons, and I'll delve into a little bit more of that later. But if the students are putting anything up on the web, if they're making a video and uploading it to their ePortfolio, they have to make sure any of the images that they use, they have permission to use, and that they've cited it. So I show them where to find images that are open, that are in the public domain, meaning they're free to use, or Creative Commons, meaning they're free to use as long as they're cited. And I'll go over that a little bit when we talk about resources more. But so the next part is the artifact. So write a paragraph about the kind of artifact you create and why you chose that type of artifact. Just a small, you know, this is the major project for the semester, so that's why it is very big. There's a lot of work. So I would not do this for every mini assignment. This is the major assignment. So For example, I chose to do a journal about, this Italian immigrant in New York City because I feel like that's the best way to get my voice heard. Or I chose to do a collage and because I feel like I could really include a lot of interesting video and audio. And I'm going to show you a tool to make collages, multimedia collages, so that could be useful. So create a rough draft of your artifact. So most online tools let you, keep editing your stuff. So if students start the artifact and post it, then a classmate can look at it and provide feedback. So another thing is, when you're a teacher and you have so many students, it's hard to provide feedback to every student on every aspect of their project. So if you let the classmates provide the feedback, then they'll both be learning. The classmate who provides the feedback will be learning as well as the student. So you don't have to spend all your time providing feedback on every step if you involve classmates in the feedback. So then the students will have to make changes considering the feedback that they've gotten. And then I've included a term paper in this just because I always think there should be some writing in a course. So the students have to create an outline of their term paper and put it online. Then they're going to submit their paper on their ePortfolio for feedback. So then a classmate can download it and then give feedback using track changes in Word. Or they can just type feedback in the ePortfolio depending on how in-depth you want to go with it. But then when they give it back to the student, so they email it back, the student will upload it to their ePortfolio as an example of, here's my original, here's the feedback, and then they make changes based on that feedback and they submit that. So they show the learning. I started off here, I got feedback, this is what I did. So it's all learning. And then reflection, there should be a page on the ePortfolio for reflection. What did they learn while they were doing this? How can they use this in the future? And, if you have, and with an ePortfolio it's great because it could be a video reflection if they want or an audio reflection. They don't always have to type everything they do. So you can give them the option, which is nice. Okay, so resources. Evaluating resources, we were just talking about that. Is this a valid scholarly resource? So who's putting out this resource? Is it a group, a well-known group, or is it just John Doe from, New York City that's making this website because he's a fan of, history? How do I know the information is correct? They can check it against multiple sources. Can I use this information as a final source, or should I use it as a jumping off point? So we talk about Wikipedia. They love using Wikipedia. Well, they can use it because I might research, immigrants and come up with a person's name that I never heard of or a keyword, and then I could take that and go to a more maybe scholarly source and put the person's name in just to check and make sure that it is correct. So Wikipedia is great for getting, initial information. Okay, so types of resources. Journal articles. A lot of universities, colleges, and schools subscribe to different journals, so you can, point them to the journal articles. Videos, YouTube and community video. So, Steve, this is where I was wanting to maybe bring up some websites.
Sure. And are you wanting to bring up a YouTube video or an actual website?
Well, I think everyone knows. Maybe just bring up the website community video.
Well, I'll need the link if you want to put that in the chat.
Sure. Just give me 1 second. So there's the link. And Community Video is a great resource because it has open source videos. That students can use. So like I say, I always try to tell students, try to use free and open source things, especially if you're using them and putting them back on the web. So if you're creating a video and you're uploading it to Eportfolio and you might be taking pieces of other videos, you can't just take any video you want or any song that you want. You know, I tell them you can't go to YouTube and use iTunes and download the latest Coldplay song and use it in your video if you're uploading it to the web. So you have to be, you know, cognizant of, you know, different where you're getting your information. But this is a great tool because it has different subjects, arts and music, sports and video, cultural and academic films. So they can kind of look through and just browse different, you know, films there. And they're all free for them to download. So if they click on the different topics, they can find you know, different videos that they can watch or use if they want to capture part of it to use in their whatever project they're doing, either their collage or their video. So I thought this was a useful tool. Okay, so so I think I'm done with that. Now, just to get back to my slide, what do? Do I just... Let me see one second. Okay, there we go. So there was one, the community video. There's also different tools for podcast and audio. There's SoundCloud, which is a great one, where you can get different podcasts on different topics. There's also a lot of great educational podcasts on the web that you can just do a search for. Again, when we talk about Wikipedia, you know, use it for initial information and then, you know, go forward from there. Open information in Creative Commons. So Creative Commons is a great website because, like I keep talking about, when students want to put stuff on the web, they have to make sure they have permission. So if they go to the Creative Commons search, they can find a lot of pictures, video, and audio that they can just use without worrying about violating copyright. And let me see if I can get it. 1 second. I can show you. Steve, so I wanted to do another web tour.
You can click on the web icon, and then you need to put the URL
here it is.
in.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Great. All right. So this is the Creative Commons search, and the way Creative Commons works is different licenses, and I'll just maybe go through the licenses for 1 second. So, okay. So there's 3 layers of licenses. Okay. The attribution one is they can use your work, they can remix, tweak, and build on your work as long as they credit you for the original creation. So if I took, you know, some video clips from a website, I would have to somewhere credit that I use these clips to make my video. And I always tell students do that, you know, make credits at the end and put wherever you got your resources. So there's different ones, and like the non-commercial one is they can use your work non-commercially, but they must acknowledge you. So I couldn't take a video and use it on our website that I was making money for. And there are some that say you can use the work, but it has to be in the original format. So each thing you'll find when you search will have a license attributed to it. And let me actually put the search back in for a second. So, for example, YouTube. If you're on the CC search, you can search YouTube for videos that fall under Creative Commons. You can search Google. You can search Google Images, Wikimedia Commons. So different things to find resources. So that's a really great resource that I like to use. Okay. That was not what I wanted. So let's go back. Let's go back here. Alrighty. So, and then like I said, SoundCloud's another great tool for getting podcasts, and the Creative Commons. So you can do searches for these tools, but I think they are very useful. All right, creating artifacts. So there are different tools for creating artifacts. And the great thing about Eportfolio is, like I said, your artifacts don't have to be a paper. Your artifacts can be a collage, for example. Blogster lets you create this multimedia collage. iMovie and Movie Maker lets you make videos. Prezi lets you do an online presentation. Screencast-O-Matic is a tool that lets you record your screen. So if you have a project where maybe students are showing how to do something, they can record their computer screen. Or maybe they're doing a web tour and they want to tour different websites and talk about them. They can actually record their screen. Wordle lets students make word clouds, which I'll show you. MindMeister is an online mapping tool. And Easily is a tool for students to make infographics. So I just want to bring up some of these tools. I don't have time to go over all of them, but let's look at Blogster for a second. All right, so I'm just going to log in. All right, so, and I don't really have time to actually show you exactly how to make a blog, but I just wanted you to see what one could look like. So these are interactive multimedia collages. And let me just go to my blogs so you can see. It's just loading up. Okay. Give me one sec. All right. So here are my blogs. Here's an example of one, Italian language and culture in New York City, right? This is an example of what a blog can actually look like. And so it is just loading up. So here, let's say this is for Discover New York. Maybe they have to explore our culture in New York City, right? I know this blog doesn't directly relate to the assignment I was explaining, but it's just an example of what one looks like. So they can put text, images. They can embed videos. So this is very useful. Here's a YouTube. I don't know if it will, let's see if it'll play. I know
in the screen sharing, neighborhood of New York's Little Italy, you'll walk beside the narrow cobblestone
street. But they can embed a YouTube video. They can embed audio, and it's very interesting because it makes this audio player here. It's a picture. You can have different images of audio players, so it's not just a link to the audio, so it actually looks, you know, appealing. And they can play music. They can upload music. They can link to websites. So here's Radio Italy, and if they click on there, it will link to the website. They can attach a document. So say you tell the students, okay, you need to make this blog, but then you need to either reflect on the blog or attach a paper with the blog. That is something they can do. Okay, another interesting tool I just want to show you is Wordle. So this is kind of a basic tool. It's not as in-depth as Blogster or some other tools. but it allows you to make word clouds. So let me just bring this one up here just to show you an example. So students type in words. They can put, so say they did a paper about something. They can actually paste the paper into Wordle and it'll make a word cloud based on the words they put in there. I don't know why that one's not loading. Let's try this one. All right, well, you can, I know these aren't loading, but you can kind of see what they look like. So students type in the text that they want, or they can paste in text or insert a URL of a website, and it will take words from the website. Then they decide the color, the font, which way they want the words to go. So this is kind of interesting, a great way to visualize something that they're doing, and just an easy way to just create a visual. And I know I'm going to show you one more from my list. It's called Easily. It is an infographic tool. So let me just bring that up. Okay, I've changed. All right. Okay. Are you all seeing right now? Wordle is still up. Are you seeing the gallery? Whoops, let me go back. Because Shane was saying that they were not seeing the gallery.
Gina, I could see the gallery, but the new Java updates, if people have them on their computer, require explicit permissions every time Java runs. And so they may be getting a little dialogue asking them to allow Java to run.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Steve. Great. Thank you. Okay. So let me just talk about Easily as another tool for creating an artifact. All right, so you can create and share visual ideas. So graphs, maps, anything visual. So students have a project where they have to research. This is just an example, a basic example, not anything, but the many types of beverages. Then for dinner, milk, water, tea, coffee, and it just shows, they can put information, they can put images in there. Let me go back. There's more examples. Here's a map example. World oil consumption. So if students are mapping information about different parts of the world, they can get this world map, and they can just put their information on different parts of the world, whatever they are, researching and getting information about. So it's just a great way to have a visual that then they can link to on their ePortfolio. Okay, so there's more here. Glogster, Prezi, Wordle, and you can look these up and try to, and just, play around with them. And this is just a small sampling of a lot of great online tools that can be used for creating artifacts. And as far as movie editing goes, I know it's a big thing at St. John's University. It's starting to be. So all Mac computers come with iMovie. And PC computers, some of them come with Movie Maker, and if not, you can download it from Microsoft's website. So a lot of professors are having students create video, and so iMovie and Movie Maker are the easiest tools to use. All right, feedback. So we talked about feedback a little bit, but feedback is essential when guiding students, especially in this type of environment. So students are kind of going off on their own and doing research and creating something. But they do still need to have a little bit of guidance and some feedback. And like I said, it can be done by classmates as well as teachers. So it doesn't have to be just a teacher having to read every aspect of every student's project, along the way. They can assign it to a classmate and pair students up. You're going to read each other's projects. You're going to look at each other's projects and find feedback. So, So just give me 1 second. I'm going to bring up a website. It's called VoiceThread, and it actually is a great tool for giving feedback. All right, so VoiceThread is a tool where you put an artifact in the center of the thread, and then all around it are comments. So you can put a picture, a document, a Word document, a video, a URL, and then surrounding it, everyone can comment. Okay, Robin had a question. Do you provide modeling for providing effective feedback? Yes, that is essential. So you really can't just, even in a college classroom, you can't just say, give feedback. You have to show them, you know, what good feedback looks like. And a good way to do that is maybe bring a sample project, for example, and just bring it up in class and just go over, you know, if I was giving feedback on this project, I would say X, Y, and Z. Okay, VoiceThread is free with limitations, and if you pay, you are unlimited. So VoiceThread, I think you are allowed to make 3 threads with the free version, and then you have to pay to use more. You can also, I think, erase one though. If you might be able to erase them if you're done with them. And sometimes I don't pay for things that I don't have to pay for because, you know, there's enough we have to pay for in life, especially when you're working with students. So sometimes you can even just get 2 accounts with different email addresses. But I just want to show you an example. Let me go back actually. Get this an example here. Yeah, VoiceThread does have school-wide plans. Let me actually sign in. All right, so now let me go to Browse so we can just see an example of what one looks like. All right, here's one, picture writing. This is just an example, and it's not really in the vein of what I was suggesting you use it for, but that's fine. I just want you to see what the actual layout of VoiceThread looks like. So something goes in the middle. So in this instance, it was a picture.
Weather. Art and Poetry by students in Mrs. Matson's 3rd grade class, May 2008.
Right, so now this is in the middle, and then you can go from slide to slide. But you can see on each page the boxes on the side for feedback. So let's just click on some people that gave feedback.
Hi, my name is Susan. I'm from Oak Park, Illinois.
So Susan gave
project. I like the concept
vocal
of picture
feedback.
writing, and
you can give text feedback as well. Let's see if anyone did that. A lot of people tend to do the vocal feedback.
Welcome to our...
Any text feedback? All right, yeah. All right, this one, I mean, very basic, but it's like says the survey presentation is great. So it's just typing. Here's video feedback. So you might have a student put, you know, their project in the middle, and then around it, classmates can give feedback. So that's just one way to just take it beyond typing stuff in a box on an ePortfolio. Then you can put a link to this in their ePortfolio, so they have their artifacts and all the feedback. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about reflection. That is very, very important. So after students do the assignment, they really need to reflect on what did I do, what did I learn, and how will this be useful for me in the future? Okay, even if they're not maybe going to be history majors in the Discover New York class, but how is even doing this useful? What did they learn? Okay, they learned a little bit about New York City, obviously. Maybe they also learned how to use some web tools that they can actually now use, you know, in the future for other classes, for other projects. And I always tell students, because I work in higher ed, that when they go on job interviews or when they apply for graduate school, you know, it's important for them to be able to explain what they've done and what they've learned. So instead of saying I took these X, Y, and Z classes, that's not going to really, you know, be useful when you're being interviewed. But you can explain, I, you know, did this project in this class and it really helped me, you know, I did this, you know, maybe service learning project and now I volunteer at this place every Saturday, or this is going to help me in the future because I learned how to use these different collaborative online tools that I can use in any job. So feedback is very, very important. And I just want to actually bring up, just if you give me 1 second, I want to just bring up the ePortfolio so I can kind of show you, you know, how students can put things in different sections of the ePortfolio. So just give me 1 second. All right, I just need to log in because I made this a private ePortfolio. So just give me 1 second. So we use the tool called Digitation at St. John's University. That's our ePortfolio tool. Now, if your school does not have an ePortfolio tool, there are other options. You can use Google Sites, which is a great tool, WordPress. So there are different options for having students create ePortfolios, even if your school does not actually subscribe to a tool. Oh, Weebly is another good one, Steve. Okay. Weebly, there are a lot of great free tools. I mean, our university decided to pay for one so that way we have everyone's on the same page. And also our tool comes with an assessment management tool. So that was helpful for us. I like PBWorks too. Actually, prior to using Digitation, that's what I was suggesting faculty members use, is PBWorks with their students. So I really did not do much to this ePortfolio, but I'll just show you. Say you did have, you know, your project, Italian Immigrants in New York City, right? So you can have the students create an ePortfolio, and you can have them put different sections based on parts of the project. And another thing, which I did not do to this ePortfolio, was the students have the option then of making it a little more interesting than I have here. They can put a banner. I mean, it depends on your tool, right? I know in Digitation you can have a banner, you can change the background color. So there's a lot you can do with this. So if you go to, you see I broke the ePortfolio down into different sections. Home, resources, artifact, paper, and reflections. So if they go to the resources section, so students have an option here. If they go to, and and the point is not to show you how to use Digitation. The point is to show you how they can add things to any ePortfolio. So they can add text, they can add a video. So say you have the students, you say add a video, add any of your resources to the resources page. Links to articles, links to websites, your video, audio. Under each one or next to each one, cite it, depending if you have them use APA or MLA. Then write a sentence or two about how this is going to be useful. They have a whole page of these artifacts all in one spot. I'm sorry, a whole page of these resources all in one spot that then they can use when they do their artifacts. So when you go to the artifact page, you can say to the students, okay, include a link or embed. If it's a video, they can just embed it in most most web tools let you embed YouTube videos. So if a student did do a video on, iMovie or Movie Maker, they can upload it to YouTube and then embed it. So they can put it in the artifact section. Then you can have classmates comment on it. On our Digication, there's a feedback area on the bottom of our Eportfolio tool. I know in in a lot of wiki tools they have feedback areas. So you can, if your tool has that, you can have students do feedback right in the tool. If not, they can just either write feedback down here to the student or email it to them, depending on what you're doing. So then I tried to model this based on my assignments, and they had to do a writing assignment. So the students can actually upload a link to their writing assignment, the initial one. Then when their classmates comment, they can upload the one with the comments. Then they can upload the changes they made, so you can kind of see the progression. And then there could be a section for reflections, where they can reflect on what they learned throughout this project. And the great thing about this is now it is all online. They can use it forever. I tell the students, whatever you do in all of your classes, take and put in one combined e-portfolio to use when you're graduating, when you're going on interviews, when you're looking to go to, graduate school or whatever. Take all these projects and put them into one, so you have a whole, you have, all examples of all the work you did throughout your time at the university. So thought I would leave some time. Are there any questions? Or does anyone have, any suggestions that they want to offer about things that they do? Because it's always great to get, suggestions from others. You can just type it in the chat box if you have a question or if you have a suggestion. Does anyone use any of the tools that I shared? Yeah, I really like VoiceThread a lot. Yeah. They're pretty, I wasn't sure if you would know, I wasn't sure if you would all know these tools or if you would, or they would be new to you. Yeah, show the kids how to use embed codes to put videos into their wiki pages. Yes, that is very important. I always tell the students, instead of putting a link to your YouTube, embed it. It is much more, when someone visits your page, they're not going to want to see a link. If they see the video and it plays, it's much more eye-catching. That's one thing we show students when they make their e-portfolios. The visuals are key. Even if you're just putting a link to a paper, if you can include a visual above it or something. What's so great about Digication? Okay, I'll be honest with you. I think Digication is a great tool. I was not on the decision committee about using it in the university, but we chose it, the university did choose it, because it has the ePortfolio tool where you can put any kind of media, video, audio, images, text. I can show you, let me go to the home page here, if it'll let me. And I can kind of show you an example of one that I did. I think this is, no, that's not really the one I want. Hold on. Okay. And now let me just get out of the edit mode here. So, here's my ePortfolio created in Digication, and I know it might be hard to see within this, within our Blackboard Collaborate room, but I have my banner here, so it's very visual. I'm able to put images. I'm able to put video and text. So I have under knowledge and skills, for example, when I'm showing, how I do multimedia design, right? I'm able to actually embed a YouTube video showing something that I created, embed a Prezi. So it's a very visual tool. Another great thing about Digication, let me go back. It has a courses tool. So students can create ePortfolios and then submit them to their professor for actual grading. So if you go to courses, students can submit sections of their ePortfolio for comments and grading, or they can submit the entire ePortfolio. And we are looking into doing an actual assessment university-wide. So for all our core courses, where students submit their project that's on their ePortfolio to a committee that will review it. And so then they can give feedback, and we can have data for all our core courses. Yes, it's an LMS, not like Blackboard, I have to say. We still require all of our online classes to use Blackboard, but it is an LMS it's a basic LMS, I would say. So, for example, here's an ePortfolio design course, right? So you could do discussions. Okay, well, there's no discussions yet, but you could do assignments, where students submit assignments. They can upload assignments. They can get feedback. And when you upload an assignment to Education, there's options for peer feedback and professor feedback or teacher feedback. And so there could be different steps to the assignment where students upload it, then they get feedback, then they upload it, revisions. That's a really great thing. You can't do tests like you can do on Blackboard. You know, it's not as robust as Blackboard or Moodle or other LMSs. So we don't allow, online teachers are allowed to use their only LMS. They have to use Blackboard. But some face-to-face courses are using Education. Any other questions? I like the idea that about using VoiceThread to leave subplans and, you know, leaving instructions, because you can put audio and video, so that's great. And then if the students have access to the VoiceThread, they can just log in and actually listen to what you said. So that's useful. You can assess portfolios. Shane, I see your question there. Yes, there are different ways to assess ePortfolios. And we have actually an ePortfolio design course at the university, which I do not teach, but someone else does. And different ways to assess ePortfolios, like, for example, how are the visuals? Is it easy to see? Can you read the text on it? Does it work in all different browsers? Is the content appropriate? Is it professional? Depending on the goal of the ePortfolio. You know, the goal of the ePortfolio in what I was showing you today was to put up an assignment and have students have a space for learning. But a lot of classes, especially in our graduate schools, they have them make the ePortfolio as a way to get a job, as a way to have their work out there when they graduate. So then, yes, you would assess it in that vein. A, is it visually appealing? We tell the students when they put things up, include a visual with everything they put up there. Is the text readable? It's not a green background with green font. Are the images appropriate? So I do a workshop on creating an appropriate ePortfolio, and I have my fake one, which is a picture of my banner has flowers and hearts, and then I have a big smiley face with a computer. Okay, yes, I teach educational technology, but no, I should not put a smiley face with a computer. So we assess it in that kind of vein. You know, if people are looking at it for, you know, applying for a job, are they going to think it's professional looking? Does it really, you know, describe you, and does it describe your goals? You know, I don't know about alumni feedback. That's a great question. So far, we've not gotten alumni feedback on the ePortfolio, but that would be something that would be useful to do in the future, especially if you're looking for a job in a field and someone's working in the field. Linking them up with the alumni would be a great opportunity. Any other questions? Or comments? Thanks, Shane. Let's see if I can find my it's not inappropriate that it, you know, is inappropriate. It's just not. Let's see if I can get it. Yes, here it is. Thank you for coming. Yes, not high level. So here's my butterflies, hearts, and stars. Here's my smiley face with the computer. So I show them this is not, and I exaggerate, you know, this is actually dramatic. I know they would never do this, but some of them might just say, you know, they're going to put things up there that, like clip art and stuff that might not be appropriate. Thank you all for coming. If you let me just include my email address in the chat room if anyone has any questions. You're welcome. Thanks, Shane. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions or if you want any more information about anything that I've showed you today. Steve, a big thank you for helping me out in the beginning to get set up. All right, I think I'm getting the signal that I have to ask people to exit the session. I think they probably need the room.